Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and of course, one of the things we're doing this year, because there's a new one coming out in October, is we're working our way through the Saw franchise. We've already done 1 and 2. This is going to be Saw 3, which came out in 2006.
Please tell me there's only 3 movies.
Unfortunately, Tim, we're not even halfway. Because we got another 4 after this, 5 including the new one.
God damn it.
Saw 3, ladies and gentlemen, and I was going to give you a spoiler warning just now. I don't want to dance around it. We had some positive points to make about the first 2, but we were, mostly... We did have some. We said there were some good ideas, but we didn't like how it was executed. We didn't like the shooting style. We thought some of the acting was terrible, particularly in the first one.
Well, luckily they changed it for this movie, right?
Which part?
Like the directing style, that's different. We got rid of all the kind of fast cuts and grimy, like rock and roll music video style.
Well, I've got good news and bad news, Tim. The good news is that those sections are further between than they were before. They're like there's longer chunks of normal in between that fast cutting bollocks.
Yeah.
The bad news is that there's not really less of it overall. It's just the movie's much longer. The movie's almost 2 hours long.
God damn it.
It is too long. It feels too long, and when you're not liking it, especially, it drags like a son of a bitch. Yeah, it is. I couldn't believe. I was expecting this to be 90 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was late to this recording because I thought it was 90 minutes long, and oh shit, it's almost 2 hours. Like that is the shock that overcame me when I noticed the runtime. And obviously I'm watching it with this runtime in mind, and there was so many sections where I'm like, you could condense this down so much.
Yeah.
I just
It's awful. And I feel like the problem is that they're trying to do 2 things. They're trying to continue the story of Jigsaw while also having the typical Saw stuff of, oh well, here's a new guy who has to go through traps, and they have all these games and stuff.
Which I think it would be the smarter thing to do is you focus on the game, make it tight, and have little bits of the overall mythology kind of seeping in. This one doesn't do that though. This one is equal. If anything, the game is like 40% of the movie, and
I kept forgetting that. Like when they cut back to the guy, I was like, oh yeah, I forget. There's this.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know the cat, all right? Okay, yeah, he's on screen. Very good. On you go. What were we saying?
Oh, I think that was it.
You didn't finish that sentence, did you? So you forget that.
Oh yeah, the cat distracted me. I forgot that that dude was even existing, because you're just like, all right, so we're doing the whole Jigsaw thing. Then this guy pops up and you're like, oh yeah.
So the plot is twofold, right? Well, before we even get to the plot, there's an opening 15 minutes that's about Dinah Meyer's character from the first 2, called Kerry. She's a detective, and she's pissed because, what's his face? The Wahlberg brother from the last one is missing, because he obviously was in the second movie and he ended in a precarious situation, shall we say. And she's getting obsessed, and Jigsaw comes after her. We have this long sequence of her noticing that there's a camera following her or watching her, and then we have her trap, and she's in this trap, and this goes on for a little bit, and she has to get this key that's in the acid, or this apparatus is going to rip her chest open and kill her. And she finds out that she gets the key and then it doesn't work, and she dies anyway. And the case they're looking at the start as well, with the guy with the chains, he was similar. He was supposed to have a way out if he did it, but the actual exit was sealed shut. So it's different from the usual Jigsaw cases in that they actually can't win. As little chances they had before, they'd have no chance now. So that sets that up. But we have this whole 15-20 minutes of this story of her, and it almost feels like, oh, we just want to we wanted the actress back, because Dinah Meyer's kind of a proper actress who does proper jobs, right? She's been in tons of stuff. She played Barbara Gordon in the Birds of Prey show. She was in Starship Troopers. She's in tons of stuff, right? She's one of these actresses that pops up a lot, and it really feels like they could only get her for a few days, so they had to write almost a short movie at the start, that's set up like, her leaving so she could be done, and that's her gone. Which, as someone who, like, if you're watching these movies back to back, or you're a fan of the franchise, is it not annoying when a character's just killed off in the opening 10 minutes of, like, the next
sure.
one? That's really annoying. What really shocked me as well, though, is that there's two other cops in her opening sort of segment that I know are characters in the next one. And I was actually kind of surprised that because I was expecting them to show up again in this, but they never did. It was weird. I was like, wait a minute, those are like the two main characters in the next movie, and they only had one scene in this? I mean, I guess that was smart planning?
Either smart
Sure.
planning, or just when they go to make the next one, it's like, oh crap, who's still alive? Who's not big enough that they'll want to do this?
Yeah, that was potential. That could very much potentially be it. So we have that, right? And then it cuts to the main plot, and we have this doctor lady, right? What's her name? Dr. Denlon, Lynn Denlon. She's a doctor. We see her at work, and we see her be kidnapped, and she's, wakes up in the Jigsaw lair, right? And before we even get to that, I want to point out, and this kind of adds into the runtime being much longer than it feels like it should be, is that in the first two, like, the victims of the crimes, they all kind of wake up in the situation, and then you have to, like, slowly discover who they were throughout the movie, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas here, like, we have quite a long kind of section of her, like, she's with what appears to be her husband, and then she's at work. We see that she's having some troubles at work, where she's not really having her head in the game. She's kind of late for an operation. Like, she shows up kind of late to it, because she's, like, in her own little headspace in the locker room. And we see, like, this build up to her being kidnapped. And it's like, did we actually need to see the build up to her being kidnapped? Especially when this series has already set a precedent for waking up and then figuring out after the fact of how we got here.
You know what I think the problem with this series is that they try to be so deadly serious. Like, I feel like they want you to think it's super deep, and these characters, have these big emotional breakthroughs, and like Jigsaw's going on about, like, he has, like, these philosophical outlooks on life, and I think they really want the reader to go, like, or not reader, the viewer.
The reader. Oh, how posh.
Well, I put subtitles on, so but yeah, I think they want you to watch it and go, like, wow, like, they're right, they didn't appreciate life, and oh man, look at all the stuff they did. But that's not what the series should be. Like, it's basically like a mad super villain making these crazy death traps, so they should embrace, like, the cheesiness and wackiness of it and really go full force in that. But instead they try to have this super serious angle, so they want to show all this stuff where, oh, you really get to know the characters, and it's so deep, you see their life and feel for them, and blah 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 bullshit. It sucks.
And the whole thing looks like a grungy Zack Snyder movie.
Oh, I'm sure they got huge hard-ons for the Snide Man.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It has this visual palette, which I hate with a passion. So they kidnap her, and, like, she is like, okay, so Jigsaw's dying. I mean, he was dying from the last two movies, and Amanda's here. Amanda's like a full protege. She's, like, running the show almost now, and she's like, okay, this device is on your neck. The show, and they basically explain to her, okay, your game is that you have to keep him alive. You have to keep Jigsaw alive while this other game we've got going on plays out. Once this guy gets through all of his tests, that's you. You've done it long enough, and we'll take the device off you. You can go. And she's like, well, but he's dying of something you can't cure. How am I supposed to keep him alive? Just keep him alive. So half the movie is, like, her, trying to, like, do stuff with the Jigsaw, sort of looking around the place, and also Amanda getting kind of more agitated, and we get, for some reason, there's so many Amanda flashbacks in this movie. There's a point where it goes from flashback to flashback to flashback, and like you say, by the time it cuts back to the main game with the guy, which we've not even spoke about yet, like, it's like, wow, it's been, like, minutes and minutes, like, what's going on? Like, what are we doing?
And also, some of these flashbacks, aren't they basically, like, straight up scenes from the other movies? Or at least they feel, like, so similar that it seems unnecessary.
They're not, but a lot of it's her helping to set up the first movie's game. Yeah. So she's dragging, like, Lee Wannell's character into the thing, and she's, like, helping Jigsaw out, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of her, like, helping set up, like, the second movie and stuff, and It's all
I
these
feel like
various
we
things.
after like after one scene we get the point. Like, she helped him, we get it. We don't have to see how she was like, oh, every scene of the movie she was hiding in the corner but you didn't notice. Like,
Yeah, because
we don't need that.
again, it tries to say, like, oh, we had this planned all along because she was the one that kidnapped the guy in the first movie. She was already helping. And I'm like, okay, right, I get that point. And obviously the point it eventually gets to is that she's the one who's, like, killing them. Like, she goes back and kills them after the game. She kills, like, Detective Man, Wahlberg from the second movie. She ends up, he bashes, we cut back to him a couple of times from the end of the second movie, and he bashes his foot in with a rock. Not a rock, it's like the top of the toilet. It's the septic tank lid.
Yeah.
And he's just, like, bashing his foot so he can break his foot to get it out of the shackle. And then he has a fight with her and she kills him. And it's like, okay, she's the one doing the killing, and the whole thing is that Jigsaw's testing her, and that's the big twist at the end, of course, is that this was really Amanda's test to see if she was actually going to do his legacy properly. And it's like, oh, we got you. Well, that's one of the two big twists. The other big twist is that the guy in the game that's going on, which he's this guy whose son was killed in a hit and run like a couple of years ago, and he's been vengeful ever since. He's gone through all these tests where all these other people who were involved, it was a witness to the crime in the first one, then it was the judge who sentenced the culprit, and then it was the culprit himself, and they're all in these like death traps, and he's the one who has to decide if he's saving them or not. So the big twist at the end, and I say big with some sarcasm, is that, oh, spoiler, he is actually the husband of the doctor lady. But of course, they intentionally misdirected us because at the start of the movie, she's in bed with another guy. Right? And obviously, there's even that specific line where she says, oh, what do you want? And he says, a divorce. And it's like, oh, they want divorce. But no, he says, what he's meaning is that he wants her to get a divorce for her husband so they can be a couple. And
I could not have cared less.
And there's so many flashbacks, and again, about wasting time, there's like a 10-minute sequence in the middle of this movie where the doctor operates in the back of Jigsaw's head, and it's so slow, and it's like, why are we doing this? Like, she cuts open the skull, she cuts a little bit of like whatever it is over the brain, and then the brain, and she's doing all this stuff, and it's played out all in real time, and it's all this like tense music playing as if we're supposed to give a shit, as if we're supposed to care that Jigsaw might die.
Yeah, I don't care at all.
Okay. This is the big problem I had in Saw 2 as well, is that it's very hard to care about any of the characters in it.
Yeah.
If you're going to play it serious, and you can play it serious, even though this is kind of goofy enough that we feel like it should be played goofy, but if you're going to play it serious, you have to care about the characters. If we don't care about the characters, then the serious aspect is lost, because we don't give a shit about anyone living or dying. And then add on top of that, all these games, all these trials the guy's going through, and the first one's the woman in the freezer who was the witness to the son's death. The second one was the judge, which is quite disgusting because it's all these like pig and hog, like a blender,
through, meat grinder.
It's a meat grinder, and it's all the liquids get into the tank. All of these feel just orchestrated for torture porn. The first one,
100%, yeah,
with the girl freezing, and he has chins on the frozen pipe, and it rips off his skin. And then the last one's the guy's just like having his body parts twisted in all places. All of it feels very repetitive because every single one plays out the exact same way. Where he's like, no, I'm going to let you die because you let my son die, and then it got after a couple of minutes when it's just almost too late. Like, oh no, I can't do this. I'm going to save you. All three of them do that exact same thing.
Yeah, it's really annoying. And I guess to the movie's credit, if you do like torture porn, I guess this is probably good. It's maybe the one subset of horror movies that I can't stand. I really don't like most torture movies. But I mean, if that's what they're doing, they want to make you squirm, I mean, I guess they succeeded. There were definitely parts in it where I was like, ooh, I don't like that. But it's so annoying though, because it feels so shallow, so pointless. It's just trying to get that reaction out of you.
It's hard to say much nice about it. I guess coming back to it, the core ideas are okay. The idea of this guy going through this set of trials, and it's all about him learning to forgive, and not be lived by vengeance. That actually sounds like a good plot idea, but the movie just kind of throws it away. And the ending, the whole thing where he walks in and like Jigsaw's got this convoluted thing set up where Amanda's going to kill the doctor lady, but in killing her, that's going to piss him off because that's his wife, and he kills Amanda. And then Jigsaw's like sitting there, and he's like, "Okay, there's one final game. You have to forgive me," kind of thing. And he doesn't. He shoots him, and then lo and behold, his hand drops, and there's another tape, and he plays the tape, and it's like, "Oh, this was your final test." And because he killed her, because like the wife's device was rigged to his heart monitor, her head blows up. And then the tape's like, "Oh, I've got your daughter kidnapped somewhere, and if you want to get her back, you're going to have to play a game." And that's how the movie ends. It ends with the sequel bait that this guy's going to have to find his daughter. Like, he's not done. He's still got a daughter to save. And here's the thing. What did the daughter do? Why is the daughter, like, in harm's way?
That's what drives me crazy about Jigsaw's whole, like, philosophy or whatever. You know, he says he's trying to get people to appreciate life, which, to be fair, there are some people that he does that with, but it feels like it gets, like, less and less, like, especially to that point.
In this movie, where his critique of Amanda is that she's taking away the chance for them to survive, and yet he puts them in these positions where it's almost like a troll, like, "Oh, nah, that was the wrong thing to do, now you're going to die." Like, or in this case, it's now you have to save your daughter. Like, what?
Yeah, like, you're basically, like, goading someone into, like, you know, "Hey, why don't you punch me? Why don't you punch me? Why don't you punch me?" And then, you know, finally they snap and punch you, and you're like, "Oh, I can't believe you did that. Like, what a savage." Like, oh, it's like, oh, you making them do it.
Yeah. There's a lot of this movie where Amanda's like walking around and she's looking at the old trap that she had in her head in the first movie, and she's looking at her like drugs and stuff, and then it triggers a flashback, and we get so much of the flashback, and it's like, you could trim so much of her flashbacks down. You could trim the opening 15 minutes right down. You could trim that stupid surgery scene, and like you could have at least a tighter movie. I don't know if it'd be a good movie, but it would, at least wouldn't drag like this version does. I mean, jeez. And for the record, this was the theatrical cut. There's a director's cut of this movie, which is over 2 hours long. No.
Jesus.
Hell no. What? No part of it. No part of it.
I didn't realize. I had a vague memory of like Amanda and Jigsaw's relationship, but I didn't realize, you know, rewatching this movie, just how messed up it is. I really don't like it. Like, he, you know, basically tortures this girl, and then, like, you know, there's that scene or whatever where he's like walking around her, and he's like, he says something like, "I want you to like give everything up and devote yourself to me." Mm-hmm. She's like, "Okay." I was like, that's pretty messed up.
I think it's the least of the problems in the movie, but yeah, it's like,
sure.
Yeah, like there's so much that's otherwise wrong with it before. Like, I think first thing is that it does nothing to make me actually care about any of the victims, right? By its own definition, it's going after people who are, at least for the most part, going after people who are bad in some way anyway. Of course, the exception to that is like the cop at the start. Like, why is she being targeted? Like, you're a homicide detective. Because that's this whole thing. Like, the tape comes on, and it's like Dinah Meyer's character, what's her name, Kerry. Like, it's like, "Oh, you just engage in the affairs of the deceased. You secretly want to be deceased." Like, no, that's her goddamn job. You stupid moron. Why is she not a victim? Why is every cop related? You know what? It goes on and on about how, "Oh, this is all about you not celebrating life." Yet somehow every single cop who investigates them ends up being one of the victims. How? How? Do you just attract this type of person? Is that what you're saying? Like, what?
I just can't wait till we get to the last movie, and it's just like the dude that delivers like his newspapers or something, and it's like, "You always give people the news, but now you want to be the news," or like something stupid like that.
No, it's a part-time job. Stop it, Mr. Jigsaw. Stop it. It's really funny actually watching this again and noticing those minor characters from in this that are major characters in 4, because I remembered them from, I don't think I ever realised when I watched Saw 4 the first time, because, you know, there'd been time between the movies that they were in Saw 3, and just watching this time, I'm like, "Oh yeah, those two are in here," and like, are they in here again? They're not, but we're going to make them main characters in the next one, so sure, why not?
I wonder, are there any like super like Saw fans? Like,
oh, there
I know
is
people. Okay. I do know people that like the movies, but I don't know, like, are there seriously people that are, have big maps of like all the characters and how they intersect and stuff, and like, oh man, like I just love the way that they do this and that.
I don't know about maps, but I've definitely seen some serious Saw fans on like Twitter and Instagram who are like, there's literally countdowns to Jigsaw coming out.
Hopefully you're not watching this review.
Yeah, 72 days till Jigsaw, and I'm like, what's wrong?
Jesus.
Stop it, stop it, people. Oh dear. And to be fair, I don't even do that with movies that I like. Like, movies that I'm looking forward to, I don't have day countdowns that I check. I mean, if you like doing that, whatever, like, knock yourself out. But
Yeah, I drive myself crazy. Be constantly looking at that.
God, this movie was tedious to get through.
Yeah.
Especially since at this point it's the third movie, so even that some of the things that arguably were good ideas in the first one or the second one, I'm like, okay, I've seen you do this stuff before. Now it feels like we're just going through the motions, and you're trying to pretend to be smart. And the funny thing is, I don't remember hating this the first time I saw it, but I do remember Ford being the first one where I was like, oh shit, I hate this because it's so convoluted at this point, where it's trying to constantly rewrite more twists into the overall thing. Like, the overall mythology keeps getting more dense with all this shit they pile on top of it.
Yeah. And then didn't the traps in the previous ones, like, for the most part, kind of have something to do with the person, or, why they're there? Like,
yeah, kinda.
Like, yeah, like being thrown into like a pit of needles when you used to be a junkie or something, stuff like that.
I guess arguably the judge, like, he crawls about in the shit. Like, he deserves to be in there. Like, maybe the witness not coming forward, that was cold.
Seems like,
so she gets frozen. See what I did there?
I don't know. It seems like a little bit of a stretch.
The guy who actually did the hit and run, though, being like twisted and stuff. I mean, I guess that's like, that's what happened to the kid when he got hit. Maybe.
These are possibilities. I guess
you asked, so I'm trying to make it fit. Okay.
I guess you can justify it, but it doesn't seem like overly clear, I guess, as other ones.
Sure. Can try to justify it, but it doesn't quite work. Like the ending of Annabelle Creation.
Disagree with that.
So what else do you want to talk about, Tim? I feel like these are going to get shorter and shorter because we talk about what the plot is. We talk about like the various things in it. Is there any specific moments that stick out to you as being either really stupid or really...
I really hate that Jigsaw is... I feel like we're just supposed to take it for granted that he's this like super genius that's always a million steps ahead of everyone. Because like, there's no way to ever actually beat him. Like, anytime you do something for him, it's like, oh well, I knew you're gonna do that and plan for that eventuality. I don't know. It just kind of annoys me that it doesn't really feel justified. Like, it just seems like, hey, this guy always knows what's gonna happen because the writer wrote that.
It's almost harder. It's almost easier to buy, like, the slasher version of this where Jason and Michael or whatever are just indestructible because it's a physical thing. It's okay, nothing you can do can kill them. They keep coming back, but at least it's simple enough that you can go, okay, they're superhuman, they can't be killed. Whereas it's actually much harder to accept that someone's so goddamn smart that they've planned out all this stuff so much, and especially when you get to the next one and it's like he's planned all this stuff out, like, before his death. Like, he's planned for all this stuff to happen after he's died. Like, this is how deeply thought out he was. Like, it gets to the point of just absolute absurd levels, and you're just like, no.
Yeah, I buy it when it's like the Riddler or something, but just some random dude who...
Yeah, but even the Riddler, though, like, after a couple of, after a storyline, it resets. Like, he goes away and comes up with a new plan or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas this, it just keeps on building and building onto the same plan. To the point where, as we get more deeper into the sequels, it's like, well, all of his plan included all of this as well? Like, what? It's insanity. So convoluted. Yeah.
And then, I thought I guess, like, jealousy between Amanda and the doctor.
Amanda getting annoyed because after she's kind of, saved his life for a little bit with the operation. He's still dying, but like he puts his hand on her arm and is like, "Oh, thank you" or whatever. And she's just like across the room. Amanda's just like,
yeah, but I don't know. I feel like kind of it goes back to my point like a little earlier. Like I don't know. I think it would have been cooler if she was her own badass chick, but they made her like this. I don't know, like a lovesick puppy or something.
Yeah, because honestly, I think early on in the movie, maybe not this time because I remembered how it ended, but like the first time, I remember actually kind of being excited that she was going to be the new Jigsaw. I thought that was interesting, like someone else was going to start this, and we weren't going to keep going convoluted with Jigsaw's plans because he literally just passed the mantle. And I thought, okay, we got a new person now doing this. Let's see how she does. And this whole idea that she's actually more spiteful and she actually just wants them all to die, I actually kind of like that in the sense that, let's say he passed the mantle, then he died, and she continued on, and it was like, oh no, this Jigsaw is even worse because this Jigsaw doesn't even let you have a chance. Like this Jigsaw is spiteful.
It's a little more interesting. It's something different.
Yeah, and that could have been a way to carry it forward, but instead they kind of, for the sake of some twists, they throw it away. They make her a weaker character again, and then, like I say, everything just keeps getting more convoluted because everything's just Jigsaw's plan. Like rather than just having her have her own new plan that we can start from fresh. Because that would have worked. Like you have 3 movies of this Jigsaw, then you could have 4, 5, and 6 would maybe be Amanda's trilogy, and then something else from there. Who knows? But that's not how it went. So here we are.
Yeah, I don't think. I'm trying to think if there were like any of the kills that I really enjoyed, but not really.
No.
The girl, like everyone, I kind of felt bad for, like the girl freezing. I guess the judge and the guy that hit his kid. Yeah.
The shotgun blast was okay, but it wasn't. It was just, it felt very coincidental. It was like, okay, sure, whatever, but I don't know. Tim, I think we're ready for ratings. Unless you have any other great groundbreaking points to make on Saw 3.
No, not at all.
Okay, well, in that case then, what would you rate Saw 3 out of 10?
It's kind of hard because I don't want to go too low just because I have a feeling
we have more sequels to get to. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, like I don't want to give this one a 3 and then watch the next one and be like, that's a 2, and then the next one be like, oh, that's a 1, and then get to one where I'm like, I don't know where else to go. So I think I'm gonna give it a 3. Yeah, I was thinking about going 3.5, but I don't know. I think just a 3. I can't even really justify.
That's fair.
Maybe if it wasn't so tedious, like he said, if it was a little shorter, trimmed up, I could probably go 3.5, maybe even a 4. But no.
I'm thinking and it's honestly the reason why I might go. I might stretch to a 4, but my reasons are less about what's in this movie and more about what I've rated worse and how does it compare to those. What is it not as bad as, for example?
Yeah. I was actually thinking of doing, but it would probably take so much time, and I'm so lazy. But I was tempted to go through every video we've done and kind of just skip to the end to see the score of the movies.
Oh yeah,
I did, and then coming up with an Excel spreadsheet to see, where everything fell. But too lazy.
Hey, well, maybe I'll do one for both of us, and it'll have averages.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
The averages, yes. That could be fun. Maybe when I'm bored one day and I'm like, I need a project to work on for an hour. Maybe I was gonna say it could be a Patreon bonus, but I don't know. No one cares. No one cares enough for that. Come on now. 3.5. 3.5. I can't go as high as a 4. But I'm going to go 3.5 just for the things that it's not as bad as. It's basically my thinking. It's really tedious. It looks ugly like the first 2 did. Don't care about any of the characters. The core ideas for a couple of things are decent, but it doesn't do anything with them. That would be my stance. So, and Tobin Bell's still pretty good, at least, like, you know, like that moment where, like, the for the first time he's explaining stuff, and she's like, what do you want me to do? And he's just like, I want to play a game. And it's like, okay, right, okay, he's got his catchphrase. Like, you know, he said his catchphrase and it worked. It was a nice little moment. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But that's about it. So that's Saw 3. Unfortunately, we have 4 more to go, and then the new one in October. So that kind of sucks. But hey ho, here we are. So thank you very much for watching. Let us know what you thought of Saw 3 in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter, mild_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mildfuzztv. See some of the bonuses over there, including the voting for Streams After Midnight, because there's a voting for like one bonus episode each month, and the vote's up, so you can check that out.
Currently, we have Stephen King movies you can pick from for
It does,
next
yes.
month.
It's Stephen King, because it's coming out next month, so we thought we'd do a Stephen King movie in the vote, so that'll sort of happen around the same time, so that'll be fun. But otherwise, guys, that is us. So thank you very much once again for watching. Keep watching scary movies, and we'll see you next time.